So I'll just point out the cerebrum again, but that's basically the compilation of sulcus and gyrus that we talked about earlier. Most of the structures we're going to be well, actually all the structures except the cerebrum that we're going to be talking about are this region here. So all this stuff is happening, all right? So we'll start with the cerebellum. That's here, this little section here, the mini brain. And then we have the olfactory bulb, olfactory bulb, optic nerve, and optic chiasm. These are all structures that relate to the cranial nerves, okay? So I'm actually going to jump back to our first picture here. So this actually shows it really nicely. At the very end, we have the olfactory bulb. So this is the anterior portion of the brain here. Remember back from when we talked about the skull, we had that cribriform plate with cribriform foramina, and I told you that that had to do with olfaction. This olfactory bulb sits right on top of that portion of the ethmoid bone, cribriform plate, and that's how you smell. So that's like actual sensation portion of this is the olfactory bulb. For our models that look more like this, that don't have it defined, it would just be the end versus the middle. Okay, so if we put a sticker on the end, we're asking for the olfactory bulb. Okay? And now actually we're going to stick on this one to talk about the next two. So optic nerve is actually cranial nerve number 2. So you get a little bit of redundancy in here. So not too much time on that, but the optic chiasm is this little area here that connects the two optic nerves. If we jump back to the animated one, here's an optic nerve on this side, here's an optic nerve on this side, and you can see that they meet, right, and they cross. Like, have you ever heard that, like, the right side of your brain deals with the vision from your left eye and vice versa? That's where the magic happens. That's where it switches. So this portion here and this long, like, bottom of the X, that's both the optic nerve, okay? So here and here, optic nerve, where they join, the center of the X, optic chiasm. Now, since we don't actually have a model that shows both hemispheres nicely aligned like this, we have something like this, we're really just going to see the optic chiasm being a dot, okay? If you look at this model just right here, you can see the optic nerve, and it's going to come to this area where it juts across. This dot right here that we see, that's the spot for the optic chiasm. So the optic chiasm is going to be, if you're looking at this on the sagittal view, the most anterior inferior circle or dot. Okay. Okay, next we'll talk about the pituitary gland. Like I mentioned, not all of our models have the pituitary gland because since it hangs off like this, without the sella turcica, or in the brain, or in the skull with the sella turcica, since our model compartments, or the stands they sit in don't have a sella turcica, this comes off very easily. So we have two models with the pituitary gland. It'll hang off like this. If you get a model that doesn't have a pituitary gland, do not confuse it for this little bump that's actually attached to it. The pituitary gland always hangs low like this. So that's the pituitary gland, and this white strip right here, that's not just a piece that they put on there to hold it on there for like the model's sake, that's the infundibulum. So that white wire you see connecting the pituitary gland to the brain is the infundibulum. Alright, next we have the mammary body. Mammillary. I don't know why I always say mammary and mammillary, and I don't mean to. Mammillary body. That's like dead center in the middle of the brain. So we're still going to be working on this inferior level, but it's dead center in the brain. Okay. So if you were to look just on this inferior region, you see that the one in the front is the optic chiasm. The one directly posterior to that, more in the center of the brain, is the mammillary body. Alright, so I think I'm going to stop there, and we'll get to the rest of these